Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Social Studies Teacher Podcast. It's been a minute since I've been on camera, but I'm excited to be here. I can't believe the summer is going by so fast and it's already back to school time. And I hope you've had a wonderful and relaxing summer so far. Before we get started with today's episode, I always want to put in my plug to make sure that you like and subscribe to this podcast. You'll get a variety of episodes. I've been uploading past workshops and video trainings over the last few months, and I'll always post episodes like this every month or so. So make sure you follow Smart and Simple Social Studies on YouTube. And if you want bite-sized videos for kids, you can always go to Social Studies with the Southern Teach, and all you have to do is type in the Southern Teach and you'll find everything there. I try to link both of the channels together, so if you find one, you'll likely find the other. You can also look up a variety of past episodes through the Social Studies Teacher Podcast. There's over 125 audio episodes. If you type in wherever you love to listen to podcasts, the Social Studies Teacher Podcast. And of course, my website, thesouthernteach.com/blog, with a variety of articles and resources that you can utilize for upper elementary and middle school teachers. Something that I'm excited to share is that I have officially posted my replay of the 2025 Social Studies Bootcamp. It seems to have been a fan favorite, so I've made it available 90-day access. I'll make sure to put the link in the description, and you can kind of get a little excitement and sneak peek into the upcoming 2026 Social Studies Bootcamp. This is going to be specifically for third all the way through 8th grade. So for the first time, I am not just limiting it to upper elementary. There have been middle school teachers that have gone to the boot camp, even though they may not be upper elementary, but this time I am actually tailoring it to upper elementary and middle school. So if you're interested, registration opens July 10th, and you can go to thesouthernteach.com/bootcamp to either register or get on the wait list. The boot camp itself is only available through the end of the month, July 31st. There's a lot of great stuff. We've got giveaways planned, and each day there's a video that you'll get access to. There's fun bonus resources, and I have a few extra surprises up my sleeve. So I'm super excited. Make sure you stick around and you'll get more information on that. Now on to the episode. My first year of teaching upper elementary social studies, this was when I taught third grade. This was the first time I actually was more of a departmentalized teacher. I did everything I'm about to tell you not to do. I spent weekends and summers trying to build lessons from scratch. There were some weeks that I might have skipped social studies because there was just no time in the schedule to teach it. And I did those type of lessons where I had students, or I would read the text or read the passage, and students would answer the questions, and that was it. That was our social studies for the day. And of course, my students forgot everything by the end of the week. So if you are about to teach social studies for the first time this school year, or you might have gotten told to teach another grade level that you're not familiar with, this video is for you. I'm going to be walking through 5 mistakes that I see many social studies teachers make and easy fixes for it. And the great news is that each of these fixes can be done before the first day of school. So let's dive in. Mistake number 1 is treating social studies entirely as read the passage and answer the questions. And I'm not knocking on this. I even create these type of daily passages, but it shouldn't be the only thing you do entirely for your social studies block. And I completely understand why this happens. Maybe you don't have a curriculum, or you don't have some type of pacing guide to go off of. You're only given maybe 10 or 12 minutes a day for social studies, or 10 or 12 minutes a week of social studies. And so that textbook or those passages could be your life raft. You print it, make copies, open it up, assign it, and Then you go on with your day. But the problem with that is social studies is the study of people, places, choices, there's stories, there's all sorts of conflicts. So there's so many other nuances to teaching social studies than just reading the information about it and answering questions. Your students might check out and they start telling themselves and everybody that social studies is boring. It was never boring. It might have just been taught in a boring way. Not to say that social studies needs to always be peppy and upbeat and engaging all the time. Sometimes that just isn't happening with any subject, not just social studies. But either way, here is the easy fix. All you need is one interactive routine. That might be a weekly primary source, such as a photograph or newsletter, article, political cartoon, and have students observe the primary source and ask questions and just discuss about that primary source. It might be simple stations once a week, maybe some type of task card activity. It might be some type of discussion where you give out a statement and students have to either agree or disagree with that statement and then discuss. Whatever it is, pick one interactive activity, do it once a week at the least, and go from there. One engaging structure that's done consistently beats out multiple engaging structures that you try to implement and you can't keep up with by the time it's October. Mistake number 2 is planning lesson by lesson instead of planning by unit. This is an easy trap to get into. You're tired by the end of the week and you don't want to really think about it. You say, I'll just figure out what we'll do with social studies during the weekend at home. And so Sunday night happens and you're scrambling for resources and trying to find activities for students to do for social studies so you can get that 1 grade a week that you might need. Or maybe you're scrambling for something during conference period, the day of. I've done that before, I will say. There was also a time I remember I was trying to find an activity for social studies the same day. It was like during my lunch hour, something related to economics, and I couldn't find it because it was so specific to Texas that it was just really hard to find. So I was going through TPT looking for this specific resource that would be good for my 3rd graders. So I totally get it. I have been there multiple times. The exhausting part of teaching social studies isn't necessarily the teaching. It can just be the deciding. What comes next? What do I do? How long do I need to spend on this specific topic? When you're planning lesson by lesson as each day comes and, in a sense, flying by the seat of your pants, you're making those same decisions over 100 times in just 1 year. The fix is to map your units first. The big chunks, usually either 4 to 8 units for the whole year, and then anchor them to your school calendar. Once you have the bare bones, the units that either are aligned with your district pacing calendar if you might have one, or aligned to your standards in general, it makes the lessons a whole lot easier. You're not deciding anymore, you're just filling in the information. I actually made a video last year about how to pace your year. If you're interested in that, I'll make sure to put the link in the description. Mistake number 3 is waiting for the perfect time block. Basically waiting for the perfect time to teach social studies. Usually you're looking at your schedule in August and you might think, I don't know how I am supposed to fit in 45 minutes to teach social studies every single day. The when I can might turn into after a really comprehensive reading or writing unit, or after testing, or after this holiday, and then it's April. And now you're panic teaching a year's worth of content in about 6 weeks. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. This happens all the time in upper elementary and middle school classrooms. One of my favorite things to tell teachers is that, as a fix, you don't need 45 minutes if you don't have that time, and you don't need to do it every single day. You could do it 15 to 20 minutes, 3 days a week. If you're lucky enough to be departmentalized and only have to worry about social studies, this might not apply to you because you already have that time protected. But if you have to teach more than one subject other than social studies, you don't have to get in the notion that you have to teach social studies every single day to be successful. Consistency is what really beats duration. 15 minutes a day can add up to over an hour a week. And you have that specific slot that's for social studies, that adds up over time. So if you're departmentalized and might teach more than one subject, make sure you schedule in that 15 to 20 minutes, whether it's 4 days a week, 3 days a week, every day each week. Claim that time and defend it like it's your lunch break. Something that I did as an upper elementary teacher was chapter book read alouds. Every day I would set aside 10 to 15 minutes to make sure I read a chapter from a specific book. And it wasn't required. It's not like the principal was saying you must have a chapter book read aloud time in your schedule. I wanted it because I really loved it as a child and as an elementary student, and I wanted to do the same thing with my students. I thought it was fun, and it was a great way to kind of incorporate something different that you wouldn't normally get in an ELA block. So I usually picked a time maybe during snack time, or if there was some type of downtime. I think there was some downtime between lunch and recess or something like that. It was a weird schedule a couple years where it was split and we had to go back after recess and then later go to lunch. So it was something that I did. I made sure to schedule it. It was consistent. Students knew what to expect, and it paid off in the end. You can do the same thing with social studies. The truth is, a perfect time block is never coming. A protected time block is something you create on your own. Mistake number 4 is teaching the content without any routines. Routines are extremely important. No matter how old a student is, routines and setting and establishing routines at the beginning of the year is so crucial to a successful school year. Take me on this. When moving up to 5th grade, I was brand new to 5th grade. I thought that it would be easier because the students already know the routines. They've been through elementary school. This is not their first rodeo. And so one of my mistakes was failing to actually establish norms and routines as explicitly as I did when I taught 3rd grade or even kindergarten. Even something as simple as teaching students and reminding students how to work independently or read independently, even walking in a line in the hallway. Those are type of routines you have to discuss with your students. New teachers might feel the pressure of state standards or upcoming standardized tests, and so they immediately go right into the teaching without any type of buffer between the first and second week. And then 3 weeks in, things go off the rails, it seems. People are talking out of turn, discussions go off the rails, and vocabulary doesn't really stick. Every activity needs at least 10 minutes of discussing directions, or a lot of redirecting, or a lot of, I don't know what to do. If you're getting that type of feedback, that's not a content problem, that is a routine problem. Here's something that can put things in perspective. Routines aren't just something that you do before you are doing instruction. Routines are the instruction. A weekly vocabulary routine is how words actually stick. A 5-minute current events routine will help connect history to their own world. A discussion norm is how you get kids talking about ideas with each other, then talking at each other. The fix is to make sure you're establishing routines, whether it's how you plan on note-taking, how you turn things in. Those are all basic routines of a well-rounded and well-run classroom. But additionally, if you want to get into more specifics, you can think about the social studies routines that I just mentioned. There's so many different routines that you can teach that will help set your students up for success. It could be related to some type of stations, task cards, current events, like I mentioned, vocabulary routine, and of course, just the general routines of how you walk in the classroom. Are they working on warm up? What are they doing as they come in and unpack for their day? And maybe note-taking routines, establishing that. Establishing how students are moving around the classroom and discussing different topics. All of those things, from that, you can pick 2 and go from there. Run them the exact same way until your students can do it without you. And even maybe if you have a sub, they know exactly what to do, and the sub is not scrambling and trying to reteach and teach something that the students already know. Mistake number 5 is something I definitely did, and that is trying to create everything yourself. Somewhere along the way, new teachers have this idea that making everything from scratch is what good teachers do. That was me. I had this idea that, oh, these teachers that are on my team, they have some outdated resources. These aren't really that great. So I'm going to do my own thing. Doing your own thing is the first step to burnout. Let me tell you that. You know what your students need. You know exactly what they need to focus on. You know the activities you want to do. Buying or borrowing resources is cheating. It's not good enough. So maybe you stay up at midnight making a map activity that already exists in hundreds of variations that will do just as well. That will leave you on the fast lane to burnout. And it's something that I got rid of in my mindset really quick within the first couple of years. The fix is to beg, borrow, and buy strategically. Check what your district already has. Check what your team members already have. There's also some incredibly free primary resources out there like the Library of Congress. And then when it makes sense, you can invest in done-for-you resources so that your energy goes to where it matters. Teaching the kids in front of you. Your worth as a teacher was never measured by how much time you spent creating resources in Canva. It's always measured by what actually happens in the classroom. Make sure to protect your time like it's part of your job, because it is. All right, so let's recap really quickly. Tip number 1, don't teach straight from a passage or a textbook. Make sure to build one interactive and engaging routine. Number 2, don't plan lesson by lesson. Kind of broaden out your scope and go unit by unit. Number 3, don't wait for the perfect time block. You can do this in 15 to 20 minutes, and it doesn't have to be every single day. Number 4, don't skip out on the routines. Make sure you are really revisiting and practicing and going through routines for your classroom the first 3 or 4 weeks of school. And tip number 5, do not create everything from scratch. Now, if you've watched or have listened to all 5 of these tips and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I need this in more depth. I want somebody to walk me through all of this in more depth before school starts. Well, my friend, that is exactly why I have created the Social Studies Bootcamp for 2026. This year's bootcamp comes with new topics related to engagement strategies, planning, differentiation, and utilizing and finding resources without having to start from scratch. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to thesouthernteach.com/bootcamp. Remember, registration opens July 10th, and I am so super excited. Video trainings will be released beginning July 20th. So that is when the live component happens with the daily giveaways. So mark your calendars for July 20th through the 24th. That is when the actual 5-day bootcamp takes place, but registration starts July 10th. So if you're watching this in real time, make sure you get on that wait list or register. The link is in the description. All right, well, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got some additional tips and insights, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.